performance in a chunk at the start of the season. If you bag a couple of good results early on, if you were even behind Kevin Magnussen but backing him up early on, and then maybe you go off the rails in the middle of the season, it's okay because you're doing it from a position of credit. Mick put himself so far behind where he needed to be that even when he started to get it together, he was only bringing himself back to where they wanted him to be in the beginning. They've had all of that time where he's been underperforming or crashing to think about these alternatives, and these alternatives who, as we'll get to, are probably people that aren't racing. They look better every time Mick disappoints the team in some way. So it possibly is harsh, and if he finishes, if the second half of this season for Mick looks fine and he's done well, you might say, but if you carry that into a third year, you would be just as good as the alternative there, and they were scoring all my points, which is why in our league I'm 65th, which against you two looks like a brilliant performance. But I made a mistake at one point where I had both those drivers under contract, but their contracts ended at the same time, and I've had to pay the price a few times for trying to undo that mistake. So I think a tip I would give people is if you've got a strong team, make sure they don't all disappear from your lineup in the same race.
Yeah, because then you end up in a situation where you have to sign Nicholas Latifi or something, which both myself and Scott have done.
Yeah, I haven't had to do that yet.
That's probably your secret. Don't sign Nicholas Latifi.
I thought I was actually playing a blinder by signing Latifi for Monza because I only had like a small amount of money for my final slot, and I thought actually that Williams, I reckon even a lesser driver, no one fancies in that car. I reckon top 10 in that car at Monza, and I was absolutely right, but it wasn't Latifi, did it?
Midfield. Obscurity is not the right word, but just midfield kind of regularity. But we were talking earlier about Haas is always going to be a team where you have to take the results when they're on the table because they won't always be there. And I think that even if he's 35, as Scott mentioned, I think that still means he's the right sort of driver for that team. Whether that means is a Hulkenberg and Magnussen lineup too uninspiring? Possibly, you maybe like one of those drivers to be a young, exciting talent, but I want them to be younger and more exciting than Mick Schumacher. So, trying to put ourselves in Good Design's shoes again, I think I would look at that lineup and go, that's probably going to get me somewhere near the amount of points I would pick for the over a season. So, I think he's a very appealing option.
So there are clearly moments there where you think it does look like he could be the driver that he was even when his full-time career was coming to an end the first time. So you're trading that question mark of myth against that. I do see it. Again, especially if you just think, Steiner is absolutely no-nonsense, Haas is a no-nonsense team, Hulk is an absolutely no-nonsense driver. So they should fit together quite well. I think the dynamic element of it will probably be a bit better than keeping Schumacher around. So I do understand that. It's just, it doesn't feel like the most inspired choice, and again, this comes back to, it's not really that I necessarily think Schumacher is absolutely the better of the two choices. I don't even know if Schumacher's got a higher ceiling than Hulk does, to be completely honest, but it's just, if you're looking at the, almost like F1 version of the circle of life, the drivers come and go, they have their chances. Nico has. And it's just interesting there. It just kind of Haas will be the ones with all the data on Schumacher. If they have seen over the last 6 or 7 events, actually, if the car was this quick, actually, he would be there. He'd be doing what Kevin did at the start of the season. They have the data and the first-hand experience that would tell them, would give them that gut feeling he's capable of doing that.
And they might still be willing to look at that as well. It's telling that they're holding off rather than going for something. Hulkenberg's not really going anywhere, is it? I know he was one that Alpine sort of had as a possibility, but I don't think that's going to happen. So they've got time.
Yeah, Hulk will be that safe, you get option from now until February next year. They can jokes and stuff like this, and it's just going to be...
Bring on the memes.
It's just going to be horrific, and it will go on until 2 or 3 races into the season, so it's going to be months we'll have to start with that.
The best thing they could do is own it straight away. Do some sort of announcement video. Don't actually do what Kevin said, but do something where they make a joke of it, because if they take ownership of it straight away, you take away people's ability to make that fun.
Yeah, that's very true.
The face you two pulled when I said they should do a video together at the start, you wondered where I was going.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that, yes, you have to be wary about dynamics between teammates, but the Magnussen-Hulkenberg thing, it wasn't really a big thing.
They were fine.
And then he's the guy who's just in different overalls every weekend.
And we will still not be advocating Antonio Giovinazzi.
Absolutely.
Or they can be the place that hangs around and waits for a big team to have a prospect they want to place there. No, they're not that keen on rookies. Rookies are fine if you have really mega
They're
ones.
good, yeah.
I mean, the mistake they made a few years ago, they ran Charles Leclerc a few times. They weren't keen on the idea of running him in a race. I think that was a bit of a mistake because Leclerc was serious.
Well, that happened to him.
Yeah, that reflects terribly on their judgment.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously Schumacher's in that position as a Ferrari prospect, but slightly different. One thing we should very briefly touch on is if Schumacher isn't a Formula One race driver next year, which at the moment,
Same with Mick.
But they love Giovinazzi as a simulator driver, don't they? That might be the difference. Mick, I think, might actually have to prove himself as bringing value. Have I got that right, Ed? I'm pretty sure Giovinazzi's been credited with doing some really important work.
yeah, Giovinazzi's really well.
Sebastian Vettel always used to say that about him, didn't he?
Yeah. Schumacher does do some Ferrari simulator work still, but Giovinazzi is the primary one. But that role appeals because the prototype campaign they're doing, it's a proper hypercar, the Ferrari, so it's not the LMDH, sort of halfway house on it. It's their own car, it's already racked up 5,000 plus kilometres of testing, it's a pretty serious thing. So actually, it's not a bad way for Schumacher to go, because if that performs as it should be a front-running car, it should be something that could allow you to win Le Mans in the coming years, which would be quite something. So why not?
Well, it was my suggestion. You're looking at me like you're trying to convince me. That's my
I'm
idea.
arguing against him, Scott.
I'm trying to sell it to the
Also,
listeners.
yeah, shall we? Let's also look at the romance, the idea of the Schumacher. We're not going to see the Schumacher name win in F1. He's not going to win a championship. He's not going to add to his dad's incredible F1 CV. But the romance and I can see it written in lights. Like Schumacher wins Le Mans.
If they were entering two cars into Le Mans and one car was anchored by Schumacher and the other car was anchored by Giovinazzi, and you've got those two XF1 guys in there, and you bring in a couple of like mega stars from GTE or elsewhere. Because guys like James Collado that have been on the books in the past. They've also had the guys that are obviously GT specialists, but they've got lots of people that have gone on to achieve really, really good things in various disciplines in Ferrari. So they're not going to be short of a driver pool. So you might look at Giovinazzi or Schumacher in particular, as we're speaking about him now, and say, okay, I'm not going to look at him and think, oh, he's going to absolutely be the mega star in my lineup. But if you're going to just use the vast resources that you have to pick one or two drivers to go with him, then he's not going to be a weak link, I don't think. Like I said, I genuinely think he has the attributes to be a success in that arena of racing.
And Ferrari have been running all of their frontline GT drivers in that car in testing, so people like Pierguidi, Collado, Fuoco, someone who doubled.
Tony Fire.
F1, yeah, Regon, who's a simulation driver from Daniel Serra. So there's loads of good drivers there. Personally, I'd like them to have Nicola Larini in the car. He's a Ferrari driver.
What's Luca Badara up to? Is he around?
He's been a bit quiet over the past years.
Marjorie's still on Ferrari's books.
Yeah, he's got a great Le Mans record as well. So
An awful lot of experience, and I think that piles up on compared to your generic F3, F2 graduate that just has a fundamentally lower range of experience of cars. De Vries is a great professional as well. That's something that all of the teams that have worked with him have said. So Sargent will be a risk, but he's a fascinating prospect. He's got a very high ceiling. People forget how highly rated he was because he's one of those drivers who circumstances mean he doesn't have like the stunning amount of career momentum, and the latter part of his CV is not that impressive. He's a karting world champion. Guys that he was racing against in F4 and Formula Renault Cup and Formula 3. Guys like Oscar Piastri, who at times you look at least as good as, if not better than.
They need on Sargent, he's on their books. If they can see that high ceiling that Scott's referred to, they've got to go for it. Williams are not yet, I think Williams are at a different point in their resurgence compared to Haas, but they still can bet on the future rather than looking right for the here and now. If Sargent wasn't around, I would say mix the guy. Of the options we talked about, the guys hanging out on the sidelines, I think he can do the job for him. He can back Alvin up. It might be a slightly lower pressure position for him and a new environment. Probably a team that might not quite so quickly as harshly as we discussed.
Long-term option because they like the idea of having a German driver in the car. I don't really see anyone else being an option around that time other than Schumacher. I think it'd be quite new. I think Audi would probably quite like having him now, especially if he's so. Does F1 need him to sort of kick around long enough for him to have as an option there? These stranger things have happened. That seems like such a silly thing to reference when we're talking about the 2023 driver market. But if F1 is more desperate to keep Schumacher on the grid than bring in back of the grid, no disrespect to Sargent, no disrespect to Williams, but he's more likely to be back of the grid. F1 will try and pull some strings to make sure Schumacher's around.
Yeah, they'll certainly be pushing for it. One thing we don't know for sure is how much eagerness there is on the part of the Williams owners.
I don't think it correlates, to be honest. I think it's just a fluke. No, it is. We miss James, but it's nice to do podcast with you, Campy. I enjoy it. I really enjoyed your podcast with Fryer. Actually, it was great.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Kicked off a very good weekend of sport, really. I went to the grand final on Saturday.
I saw that. I was going to send that to the group chat because I don't know if everyone follows Ricky. I was like, maybe they'd like to see the camp man out and about and he's going out beanie.
Well, believe it or not, we were sitting right directly in the sun and the camera quality wasn't sharp.
Oh.
I've got a mean tan line from where my beanie was sitting on the head.
Like, the old raccoon.
Cracking game of footy, I wasn't a
It was pretty bad.
It's just, it makes this sport so much more vital, but the problem that you have is that races are there just because they're there, and they're not spectacles. I mean, we've got some cracking tracks coming up. We've got Japan, Malaysia, Brazil, Coda, fundamentally good tracks, and these tracks are said before, these tracks like Japan, 130 yard, they have a character outside of themselves, not just as a country, but the track and Porto specifically. Look at Rouge and Beckett and Canada, stuff like that.
Run for profit, not for, I don't know, goodwill and sporting, which is what we sometimes like to think it is. It is, unfortunately, it has shareholders, it has people who want to see a return on their investment, and the best way to do that is to have more things to sell, which is race weekends. So that is what they're going to do.
Yeah, it'll be taxing on teams, not on the drivers, teams and the individuals in those teams.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to...
I thought you raised a really good point, which was like, are we going to have this kind of B team kind of thing happening? Because you can't ask all of your crew to be running that long. The drivers are different because they can kind of fly in last minute to some degree.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got some people who are there 7 days for a race weekend. Like it's a full-time gig around.
The best qualifying of the year, and that's why I watch it. You'll expect to know when there's an event, there's a crash event, there's always stuff going on outside of it. You've got stage and live music happening.
Multiple formulas, like you've got a lot of categories running, which we don't see at some of the other events, which is we just get just Formula One, otherwise the track's empty.
Like Brazil's got absolutely nothing, it's just F1 and nothing. As an event, it's not great news. Part of the work to get to apparently. Very high power. And you can blow over on the whole thing, knowing that you've got tracks like a Monaco or like a Red Bull Ring, where they're not as power sensitive. You can save their strategy. I mean, we're still operating next year we're supposed to be operating on 135 million now. I just don't see how that will happen. But anyway, look, this is what the sport's got to do. Money's not the issue with the sport.
No.
There's plenty of money going around. And if you say that it's Douglas ladder, they'll put it's not like that. It's not like we're creating technology to go back into those.
You can go back and look through before like 2010s, all the technology that was in F1 slowly made its way into race cars. Everything like braking systems that regenerate heat into that now, like that was stuff.
Recovery.
All those kind of things were actually developed and moving in. ABS was like first pioneer.
Where is the sport going? What is its identity and what do we want to do with the sport? And that's where I think we're in limbo and we haven't quite figured out. Like from here and now, it's okay. I think for the sport definitely in line with where it's going.
For sure.
So much
nickel mining and finding lithium and all these kind of things is some of the dirtiest mining you can do. It doesn't account for that. Also, at the end of the day, you still have to produce electricity, which is still fundamentally done by coal. It is perplexing that people go, electric is the way. Where does the electricity come from, sir? And that people just go, oh, you really have to think about things. So we are the old guys yelling, but what we would love to see, I think we both agree here, is hydrogen. Hydrogen is renewable, it might be volatile, is the only thing I'm worried about on track.
There's technology out. I've heard of technology because, you know, for whatever, through being in the electrical trade. I've heard of technology that's out there that you can turn the hydrogen into a fertiliser type, which is safe to travel with. You don't have to travel with it, you know, under massive amounts of pressure like you used to.
Yep.
And then you re-energise it in fuel, and you can put it on, like, you know, a gas bottle on the side of your house which powers you. I mean, that's the sort of stuff that's out there and beginning to come out.
And wouldn't that be the nicest technology to give to the world from F1 being the pioneers of that?
Well, you've got to create it in a clean way.
Yeah.
You can make hydrogen off anything. It's like hydrogen is a byproduct of something. So it can come off things like brown coal or coal, and you can take the hydrogen off, attach it on, and turn it off. But you also love topic, by the way. I know.
Which I'm here for, because we need to get this out.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I listened to I listened to like a cars guide thing, a YouTube channel the other day. They had a top line Porsche 911, and they did a drag against. I think they did 150 mile drags versus a Tesla.
Yeah.
The Tesla won once. And it won on the first run, and it did the quickest time all day.
Yeah.
In saying that, the Porsche did the same thing consistently 150 times on a full tank of gas and didn't have to stop and recharge every 4 hours to do it. But the Porsche beat it every other time, so it can get that performance once. But then it doesn't move forward. So, and I'm not sitting here poking fun at Tesla because what they're doing is great.
Yeah.
But there's this massive gap between the reality of the situation and then bring it back to Formula One and what it actually means for the greater motoring public. And that's the issue or the identity which our sport will struggle with to move forward unless they get some clear vision and clear figure out where they go from.
Yeah.
Yeah, geez, that wasn't bad.
It was a bloody a detour indeed.
What's his name?
What's his name? What a transition that was. We're a professional right here.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to look up and see if I can find how many years it is, but Yuki Tsunoda has re-signed with the Red Bull group.
Yeah.
And therefore at AlphaTauri. I'm just wondering how long for. What do you think about the sign?